Lego is the planet's biggest toy maker by revenue. IKEA is its biggest maker of furniture. The Nordics are home to leading manufacturers of everything from machinery and telecom equipment to seat belts and lifts. The region has also produced the world's biggest music streaming company, Spotify, and its largest buy now pay later service, Klarna. Novo Nordisk, a Danish pioneer in weight loss drugs, is Europe's most valuable firm. The Economist wrote about this in a recent article. Global popularity of apps such as Spotify and weight loss drugs, particularly Ozempic, may have made Nordic brands household names even in India. But few know how these global entities compare to that of tiny economic size of their country of origin. The Nordic countries of Norway, Sweden, Denmark, and Finland are admired for having pulled off the impossible. These tiny countries have produced businesses that dominate the respective industries at a global scale. The secret of the small companies acquiring global scale and efficiency is the limited size of the domestic markets. The small number of local consumers have forced the companies to go international and build competitiveness early on. Consider this data. The average share of domestic revenues generated by such Nordic companies is just 2%. When you compare this 12% domestic share for their counterparts in the rest of the Europe and 46% for those in America, you get the difference. In India, there are small companies growing at massive pace thanks to the large scope of consumption growth within the borders. But the Nordic companies never had it easy. Now, the reason I am discussing the nature of growth trajectory of the globally renowned Nordic companies is because I see a striking similarity between them and few Indian small caps. Let me explain. To me, there are basically four reasons that allowed the Nordic companies to do what even some of the large companies elsewhere in the world cannot. Use of technology. Data from Eurostat shows that 45% of small firms in the European Union pay for cloud computing services. On the other hand, the average share of companies across the Nordic region with access to cloud technology is 73%. This technology has traditionally played a key role of catalyst in the companies from the region scaling up faster. Most small caps in India are using the platform ecosystem and digital modes of growth to increase their reach faster. Next comes focus on research. McKinsey reckons that 4/5 of listed Nordic companies spend more on research and development than their rivals do elsewhere in the West. This focus on research from a macro lens, R&D investment by Indian industry is still small at 0.2% of GDP. In comparison, American corporates spend 2.7% of GDP, South Koreans 3.9%, and the ones in UK 2.1%. The good news is that macroeconomic conditions have aligned for the Indian industry to push R&D investments and reap rich dividends. This includes the large size of the economy, large local markets, huge startup ecosystem, focus on indigenous manufacturing, and a mature R&D institutional ecosystem, which means support from entities like DRDO and ISRO. Several small caps and startups operating in the defense, space tech, and electronics manufacturing ecosystem have taken advantage of tie-ups with large government R&D institutions like DRDO and ISRO to innovate in their product pipeline. Next comes the government support for innovation. Startup entrepreneurs in the Nordic regions find it less daunting to take risks, knowing that should they fail, they will have access to generous unemployment benefits and well-functioning public healthcare and education systems. Startup entrepreneurs in India may not have access to generous social welfare measures, but the ease of doing businesses and incentives like PLI, which is Production Linked Incentive Scheme, have certainly come a long way in encouraging small caps in India to innovate. Long-term ownership mindset, that's also very important. Business dynasties have played a prominent role in the Nordic region. Mayors and Lego, for instance, are still controlled by their founding families. Though both firms are now run by professional executives, the family holding has given the management a long term orientation for the business. Similarly, in India, owner operator led companies, especially in the small cap space, are preferred lot amongst investors. We also call them managements with skin in the game. For here, not only are the founders keen on long term value creation, but the substantial stake of the founders in the business also gives minority shareholders the assurance of long term earnings visibility. So, are these small caps the junior blue chips in the making? Well, during bull markets, investors get carried away by the sharp rise in stock prices of small caps. The quick uptick in valuations gives new investors the impression that almost every other small cap is a blue chip in the making. In reality, only a handful of small caps manage to live up to their such expectations. So, as soon as the earnings season turns the tide, the small caps start sliding in valuation. It is then that investors take the sell now, buy later approach for small caps. Notwithstanding their fundamentals and moat, small cap stocks start getting dumped during market corrections. The assumption that they can always be bought back later at cheaper valuations could, in some cases, turn out to be a myth. Like I explained in the case of Nordic companies, there are some small caps and startups in India that possess all the elements to be successful for several decades. It's a matter of time before these entities manage to capture larger market share or disrupt markets with their innovative products and services. Therefore, if you're wondering whether to time the markets and sell some of these small caps, make sure you evaluate them through the growth criteria of the Nordic stocks. And don't be surprised if at least a few of the small cap stocks that you own show some promising signs to become the next decade's blue chips. Hope you like this video. Thanks for watching.